Welcome back to Trib Live Radio. I'm Mike Raw, now joined by Guy Junker. No Ken Laird in this segment, despite what you may have just heard. This is the Morning Sports Report brought
Saturday was the wedding. Today, the divorce proceedings begin. So.
The Morning Sports Report brought to you by Miranda Homes. More home for less money. Find your new home today at mirandahomes.com. So, Guy, I'll ask you what I've been asking our listeners all morning long. A lot of ugly losses in Pittsburgh sports this weekend, including Penn State in that mix.
Yeah, thoroughly depressing, actually, if you're just from a sports standpoint.
Yeah, hopefully people are out doing other things on their Labor Day weekend and not scheduling it around the sporting event.
I took some vacation. My brother's in town, from out of the country, actually, so at least I was distracted that it didn't ruin my entire weekend. I got to go with the Pirates as being the worst loss. So you could point at any. I'll start with them because it wasn't one loss; it was four. Yeah. It was four ugly losses against teams they have to beat. I said last Monday, Michael, you can't lose 2 out of 3 at home to the Milwaukee Brewers and fancy yourself in the mix of this thing. Yep. Then you go to Milwaukee and get swept by these guys. I mean, there's a park that you've got to go into and cure some of your batting ills. You should be able to go in there and hit. It's a hitter's park. They didn't hit. They haven't played well. They haven't gotten any breaks. I will give them this. They've been lucky in terms of injuries for much of this year. But you take Neil Walker out of that lineup. You take Marte, who was, a little bit of a spark plug at the top. Jeff Carsons, who had been one of the better pitchers over that. All of a sudden, you got 3 fairly key guys all out at the same time. That doesn't help. But losing yesterday to Edgar Gonzalez, come on. Although
I did hear he was tearing up the Mexican League in Monterrey.
Terrific, yeah. But I think those are the most important because we're near the end of the season. They're costly. They have less of a chance to rebound than the other losses. The Pitt loss, first time ever they lose to an FCS team. That really stings. Yeah. But it's the first game of a new era. I thought, when we discussed this game, we thought that Youngstown State could give them a little bit of a scare early, and it'd be one of those games where it'd be like pulling teeth. But eventually, that's one of the few games I think I got right in picking. What are they doing picking pork over there? 3-2. All right.
A whole lot of people 3-2. Yeah.
But I didn't think they would beat that crazy spread, and they got time to come back. It's the first game with a new coach, and the Penn State loss I think is second most devastating, and maybe the worst because watching them, they have no playmakers at all on offense. I don't know how they're going to win a game. Yeah. I don't expect them to go on the road and win next week. Can they beat a Temple? I don't know. Can they beat an Indiana or Northwestern? I wouldn't bet on it. And I think in terms of getting off to a decent start, what you don't want there is, in terms of what long-term, the Pirates may be blowing a chance at the postseason. They may be blowing a chance at a winning season. Long-term, Penn State, if we all know that darker days are ahead, not better. But if they get off to a really lousy start, all these kids are going to stay. They have until next August to decide to go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. If they go 1-11, they're all going to go somewhere else, and next year they won't win it. So I thought that was a more important. Pitt has the biggest chance to rebound. Yeah. There's still a honeymoon period here, so that's the order that I go in.
They're going to have to come back quick Thursday night going to Cincinnati. That's a tall order. Yeah, you mentioned no playmakers for Penn State. You got Hodges, a linebacker, back there returning punts. He looked like it was the first time he'd ever tried to do it before. They said he did it in high school. He muffed that first punt. They need somebody because Matt McGloin is not going to be the guy making plays for them out there. Still inaccurate. We saw it all last year. Thought maybe he had a chance to improve. Bill O'Brien, a quarterback's coach, a full season to acclimate himself as the starter. No more of that, musical chairs at quarterback like he had to deal with all of last year. But he got outplayed by Tettleton.
Tettleton had a great game. Absolutely.
Was a better quarterback.
He got off to a nice start. I think he completed 8 of his first 9, and 1 was a drop. The Bolden fumble was key. I mean, if they roll down the field and go 93 yards or whatever it is and get a touchdown, then maybe they feel better about themselves. As it is, even though they built a 14-3 lead, one was almost a gift after a block punt at the 18-yard line. They had one decent drive. And I think the one common thing with both coaches, if you look at Paul Christ and Bill O'Brien, they both made game decisions I don't think they wanted to make. Bill O'Brien was scared to death to kick, punt, or place kick. Yeah. He was gambling more than I think he would like to, but he's scared to death of his kicking game with Anthony Farrah gone to Texas. And Paul Christ made some decisions late in the game because he had no confidence in the way his defense was playing, going for it when maybe he would have kicked the field goal. So both, I think Pitt can come back more easily than Penn State. Penn State's going to continue to lose players, and I thought this was a devastating loss for them. But the Pirates are the ones that are within a month of the end of their season, and it's slipping out of their grasp. And if they don't finish over 500 now after being 16 games over.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's going to be interesting to hear what the fans think about that in October.
They're sitting at 6 games over 500 now with just over a little bit more than a month remaining in the season. And when the Pirates reached that point of being 16 games over 500, how were they doing it? They were doing it by beating the teams they were supposed to beat, and they are flat not doing that anymore. Now they could rebound, win the last 2 games in the series against Houston, build momentum going in when the Cubs come into town next. Maybe they win 4 of the next 5. Maybe they sweep the Cubs and everything looks good. They've come back when we've written them off for dead before, but getting swept in Milwaukee, you can even go back to the series in San Diego that was so disgusting. You had, the end of the long stretch, 22 straight games or whatever it was, going out there on the West Coast. You can find ways to make excuses, but this team in June and July was beating the teams they were supposed to beat, and that's just not happening anymore. Yesterday, Edgar Gonzalez, that's a team you're supposed to beat, and they were never in that game.
Well, I mentioned I did take some vacation days, and my brother's home from Germany, so we were out boating actually a little bit yesterday, out at North Park in the kayaks, out in the lake, and I got in the car and I turned on the radio to see what they were doing. And as soon as I heard the crowd, Tim Neverett was talking about something. I'm just listening. It's dead something, and they're not, it was 5-1 already.
Yeah,
and they got kind of hosed on a call early in the game. Yeah. Things aren't going well right now, and it's up to them this homestand to kind of put that back together. All right, we will, as we usually do on Mondays, but we're doing Tuesday this week. We'll return with our top 5 from over the weekend. This has been Trib Live Radio and your morning sports report.